Roger. Good day, Internet. This is DTNS Live for Monday, February 10th, 2025. From Studio Animal House, I'm Sarah Lane.
In Los Angeles, I'm Tom Merritt.
From deep in the heart of Texas, I'm Justin Robert Young.
I'm the show's producer, Roger Chang.
Daily Tech News Show Live is made possible by you. Yeah, I'm talking to you, Pat, and Mike Cortez, and Erwin Sturr, and brand new patrons, Dylan, Nathan, and Ryan. Woo-hoo. Always good to have new patrons, especially Dylan, Nathan, and Ryan. You guys are awesome.
Indeed. Welcome to DTNS Live, all. Hope you had a fun Super Bowl Sunday for those who observed.
For those who celebrate.
Yeah. And to everybody else, hope you're doing well. Hope you're either staying warm or staying cool, wherever you might be. This is the show where we discuss the tech news to help us all understand it a little bit better. Justin, how was your Super Bowl weekend?
Oh, you want to know what? Aside from a little 5-month sleep regression, it was an absolute dream.
5 months sleep regression? Ooh.
Yeah.
I'm sorry about that.
A little bit. We had some wake ups. So I'm a little less rolling along, barreling through the day, but we soldier forth for the Daily Tech News Show faithful.
You know, it's funny, Justin. I've heard from other parents, not just you, that sometimes sleep deprivation means that you're running on fumes as an adult.
Yeah, I agree.
Turns out, yes.
Roger, what about you? What did you guys do this weekend?
I did a lot of editing, and I helped my kids sell cookies.
Oh, yeah. How's the cookie selling going?
It went okay. There were a lot more people on the sidewalk than you would imagine during a Super Bowl Sunday.
Oh, so you did like
turns
the
out not
stand
everybody cares about sports.
Well, a bunch of them were wearing Chiefs jerseys, which is weird out in California, but they bought cookies anyway.
Well, there you go. Everybody
It's actually
wins.
not that weird because LA didn't even have a team for so many years that people just kind of migrated to other teams for football specifically.
Yeah. What about you, Tom and Eileen? Were you guys rooting for the Chiefs?
We did.
The Eagles?
The Kendrick Lamar won, so we were very happy.
Yep.
That we had it on and paid attention to the halftime show for sure, and then during the second half, maybe put it on a second screen and watched some other things, and just kept an eye in case there was a dramatic comeback.
Which K-drama?
It was a Chinese drama, actually, called Love Like the Galaxy.
There we go.
Wow. It's
go.
a galaxy
Yeah.
of love.
Yeah.
No, I'm with you on that. Everything up until I was very excited about the halftime show, and I was very pleased with it. Not everybody was, but I was. And yeah, it was a good Super Bowl all around.
Yeah,
Some funny commercials.
Halftime show was great.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have a lot of thoughts about the halftime show. I thought it was great. I love it. I love Kendrick Lamar and I love his latest album, but it was kind of crazy that he did the vast majority of songs that came out less than a year ago, which unless you're like a real big Kendrick Lamar fan, you may or may not have heard. So interesting.
Yeah. No, it was good stuff. Lots of layers. The man likes a good layer.
He's a storyteller.
Layered meanings. Yes, indeed. We also like layers of news. So let's get right into it. Checking out the quick hits.
Sony's PlayStation network went out for a lot of users this past Saturday, about 20 hours due to operational issues. Longest PlayStation network outage since 2011. Hey, that was one of the first Tech News Today stories we covered. To make it up to users, Sony is giving its PlayStation Plus subscribers an extra 5 days of service at no additional charge to say, we're sorry.
A new study from Anthropic highlights using its Clio tool and analyzing 1 million conversations on how AI is being integrated into real-world work shows that 57% of use cases focused on augmentation rather than full automation. AI adoption is shown to be highest in software engineering and creative fields. Anthropic says it continues to contribute transparency.
Nokia has appointed the head of Intel's data center and AI operations, Justin Hotard, to become the new CEO of Nokia. Nokia expects data centers to be its biggest driver of growth in the coming years, and, AI. Tech in Asia reports that overall uncertainty over tariffs
has caused Shein to begin to ask some of its suppliers to set up production facilities in Vietnam. Shein told Tech in Asia it doesn't plan to increase overall production in Vietnam, just looking to offload stuff there.
RW Nash noted on our subreddit that T-Mobile announced Starlink pricing and availability during the Super Bowl on Sunday. Doesn't actually require you to be a T-Mobile customer either. If you want to get satellite texting for free until July, you can do that. It's part of a beta test. After that, it will be included in the Go 5G Next plan, or you can add it on to your T-Mobile subscription for $15 a month. And if you're a Verizon or AT&T customer, as long as you have a phone capable of digital SIM cards, you can add it on for an extra $20 a month.
A consortium of investors led by Elon Musk has made an unsolicited offer to buy the nonprofit company that controls OpenAI. The bid of $97.4 billion can now be used as a valuation, which complicates the plan to convert OpenAI into a for-profit entity, which requires spending based on estimated valuations.
Yeah, this broke right before the show.
From our DTNS subreddit, and thanks to everybody who's been submitting so many stories lately, Perfect Face for Radio submitted this one from 404 Media. Researchers at Microsoft and Carnegie Mellon University have released a study finding that humans who rely on generative AI in their work use less critical thinking. That can result in the deterioration of cognitive faculties that ought to be preserved. Now, this doesn't mean that if you use AI, it means you're not using your brain. The paper has a great title: The Impact of Generative AI on Critical Thinking, Self-Reported Reductions in Cognitive Effort and Confidence Effects from a Survey of Knowledge Workers. Now, this is a pretty small survey, if you're comparing it to other surveys. This evaluated 319 self-proclaimed knowledge workers who self-reported 936 firsthand examples of using generative AI at their job. Then they took a survey, after saying, yes, I use this, about how they use that generative AI, including specific tools and prompts. The survey said, okay, well, if you do this, how confident are you that the generative AI tool's ability to do the specific task is working for you? How confident are you in evaluating the AI's output? Basically, like, it spits back something and you say, okay, I either think it's, thumbs up, or it has to be finessed with a little bit. And how confident are you in your ability to complete the same work task without that AI tool, which I thought was kind of the most interesting question of it all. The study reported that workers who had more confidence that they had in AI doing a task, the more they observed their perceived inaction of critical thinking, meaning they felt like when we work in tandem, that's the best case scenario. When workers reported less confidence in the output, they used more critical thinking and had more confidence in their ability to evaluate and improve the AI's output quality.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, a lot of people are going to, dump on the fact that this is self-reported, but a lot of times that's how you start. So what Microsoft's trying to do is say, is there smoke? Then maybe we can look to see if there's fire. And there's a little bit of smoke, although I'm not sure how much. I think they should do a follow-up study where they can do some independent evaluations of critical thinking to see if people are right about their own self-evaluation of their critical thinking. But if I'm reading the study right, what they said was, when you are less confident in the output of a tool, you use more critical thinking. And that just makes sense to me, right? Like, if you're like, I don't know if that'll be good or not, you're going to look at it closer.
If I ask you, Tom, hey, what's your best advice for me to get, across town right now during rush hour, and you tell me a weird route, I'd be like, I don't know. I think I'm just going to use my own brain.
Yeah, if I'm, as I am, horrible with directions, you're like, it's nice of Tom to give me directions, but I'll just double check.
I just feel like I'm better at that.
I will add, I neglected to stick this into the notes section of this, but what they also found was people under time pressure were less like, for example, I have a deadline in 10 minutes and I need to get this out. They are less likely to use critical thinking and just totally rely on the AI tool, whatever it was, to generate the output they needed without necessarily going through and
because
with a fine tooth.
Workers who
they
felt
certainly
crunched-
didn't have the time.
Yeah.
Workers who felt crunched for time used less critical thinking, while workers in high stakes scenarios were using more critical thinking. So that also makes sense to me. If you don't have a lot of time, then you're not going to take the time to use critical thinking.
And if it's a low stakes
but-
thing.
But if the
hold
stakes are high and you're like, you know what, if I screw this up, it's going to have bad repercussions. There are going to be consequences. You do take the time to do critical thinking.
Well, what if it's both?
Am I just sleep deprived, or is people under time crunch use less critical thinking?
In general.
Not a shocking thing to say at all.
No,
like, how
not
is that in
shocking at
any
all.
way different
Yeah.
from anything that has happened ever?
To me, it's not that I when I was going over the parts of the report, this actually felt more like an automation thing. And this reminds me of my own personal history back in the great days of the 1990s when I was a dishwasher. I initially allowed the dishwasher to do most of the washing. And one of the things you typically need to do before is actually clean everything off the plate before you stick it in order to actually make sure there's nothing stuck on there. There's no lipstick on the glasses. There's no, in other words, you need to, there are a segment of people who will initially see a new automation tool and think, yeah, let me just shove everything toward that device, that tool, whatever, and let it do the work for me as I sit back and reap the benefits of some extra breathing room.
I think the dishwasher is actually a very good analogy here because
I think so too.
Because I'm with you on this. I was always, when my parents and I were lucky enough to have a dishwasher in our kitchen, because we didn't always have one, it was always like my job after dinner to wash the dishes and then put them in the dishwasher. And I'd be like, Mom, what is the dishwasher for? And she's like, you just have to do it that way. That's how you make sure it's right. Dishwasher's not going to get everything. You have to pre-dishwash everything for the dishwasher. Now, in modern times, some dishwashers still are like that, but other dishwashers are very powerful. And people go, no, you just don't have a full, plate of food on the, plate when you put it in the dishwasher, but you don't have to do all this rinsing and all the soap. The dishwasher will handle it. And I think that some AI tools, again, depends on the task, depends on the ask, actually are that powerful dishwasher. You don't really have to do much, but
and we've
just
got more
be
powerful
there.
dishwashers coming. I had the exact same experience as Roger back in the late 80s when I was working in the dorm cafeteria with dishwashers. But yes, we are in the late 80s or early 90s of AI technology. So, sometimes food still gets stuck to the dishes, but we are headed towards a world of more powerful AI dishwashers.
And to stick to our edible metaphor, if you felt that you needed to get your dishes in the dishwasher before you left for work and you were going to be late, you will probably spend less time thinking about every little speck on there. You're just going to chuck them in, hit go, and then run out the door so you are not late for whatever you need to get to. Look, I think that this is an interesting study. The way that we handle AI is going to be probably one of the defining questions of our lifetime, in the same way that how we handle the internet and our interconnectivity with the rest of the world has been a topic that we have talked much, hours, if not days on this show and all of its progeny. But I don't know if this is going around because it has the headline of AI makes people dumb. And I don't know if that's something that is going to be the real takeaway.
In fact, and that's acknowledged in the paper. The authors of the paper point out that Socrates objected to writing because he thought it made people think less to have things written down. Trithemius objected to printing. Teachers of arithmetic objected to calculators at first. The researchers wrote, such consternation is not unfounded. Used improperly, technologies can and do result in the deterioration of cognitive faculties that ought to be preserved. But the fact that they picked these examples show that historically, we acknowledge that fact and then we adapt to it and we use the tool for what it's good at. And I don't think it's wrong for a study to go, hey, what you thought would be true is true. That's valuable because we don't really know until we study it. But yeah, in this case, it does sound like the study said, yeah, when you're in a rush or when you're overconfident, or not even overconfident. When you're confident that it's going to be right, you don't double check it a lot. When you're not confident it's going to be right, or if the consequences are really bad if it's wrong, you double check it more. That all makes sense.
I was on a project recently. It was not anything for DTNS Live, everybody, but I was on a project recently where we were under the gun to publish something, and there were some miscoms on the team, and it turned into like we need to use. Okay, we got to use AI for a few things here, just to get it out the door, because it was, again, time sensitive, and I was sort of like, ooh, we really doing this, guys? But it was all fine. It worked out fine, but it was a desperation move. It was like a Hail Mary, like the humans can't do this fast enough, so we're gonna use this as a crutch. And I know a lot of people out there have been in similar situations. It's not ideal. You don't want to do that. But it's like cramming for a test. You use the tools you have.
And I think that the real takeaway is you want to be, when you integrate these tools, you want to make sure that it isn't just filling in as a couple of books at the end of a coffee table because one of the legs is shorter than the others. You actually want to make sure that it's not there to make up for the fact that you lack the experience or the enough people to actually do this job, and you're just you see this as a way to like, hey, this is my get out of jail free card. I'm just going to use this AI. I don't need to hire a second person or make sure I have someone at the other end to make sure that the product is copy edited. It's just good. I'll send it into Grammarly. Whatever it spits out, I'll send to the client.
The bit about consequences is the guarantor there, right? Sarah's team would have probably never considered it if people were going to die if they got it wrong, right?
Yeah.
But they weren't, and they're like, well, the risks are worth the speed, right? And we make those evaluations all the time.
But also, it's like what that doesn't factor in is like, what was the aim, and would it have been less aggressive without the technology? So in that scenario, if you needed to get something done, do you still keep that same level of like, okay, well, we can get this done if we throw the Hail Mary with AI? In a bygone era, you might have said, all right, let's reduce our scope of what we can do because that's all we have. Those are our tools. That to me is where the window is.
Well, the Artificial Intelligence Action Summit is being held in Paris this week. Tom, we're paying attention to this, obviously, but do we feel like it's changing the game for France?
Well, France would like you to think that. So far, France has taken it as an opportunity to talk about France. President Macron announced a private fund of 109 billion euros for data centers, which he says per capita is the equal to Project Stargate. France's Mistral has been talking up its chops with its own data center investment, separate from that, and a partnership on military tech with Germany's Helsing. We're going to get an address from President von der Leyen tomorrow about streamlining regulations to increase innovation in AI. This is really interesting, though, because 2 years ago, this was all about safety. This was in the UK. It was at Bletchley Park, the home of Alan Turing's Colossus crypto breaking efforts. And then last year it was in Seoul. And if you forgot that they had one last year in Seoul, you're probably not alone because they had a declaration, but I don't know if it really made any news. So I'm not sure if this is going to do much other than indicate what governments are thinking right now. They have gone from thinking solely about safety to thinking about innovation. All the talk seems to be about innovation. Do you guys think this is, I don't know, Justin, do you think this is worth paying attention to?
Yes. Especially if there's anybody listening to us in the EU, because I have real questions about their economy writ large, because not only have they been leading the world very proudly on AI regulations that I don't think are quite there to meet the moment, because we don't really know the scope of the issue. And I think you do need to know the scope of the industry before you start regulating it. But also because China and the United States are in a existential race to see how fast they can mold this technology. And this technology is moving faster than any technology that we have ever seen before. So if the EU wants to say, or Macron wants to say, that he's going to win the AI race, or France will win the AI race, then it's much like me saying that I'm going to win the Tour de France while I'm watching it at home here in Austin, Texas. They have a long way to go. And yes, 109 euros is a big investment, but they have, I
109
think,
billion euros.
Yes.
Billion euros, my mistake. But they have a little bit of a tech hangover as well. They have not been known as a startup-friendly place, the EU and France included. They have not been known as a tech innovation leader for decades now. And if they're saying we'll streamline the way that we can regulate you, I don't think that's really enticing when there are places on Earth where you can just run as fast as you can.
I think you may be overstating the case, but I'm going to talk to Patrick Beja about this. So don't worry, folks. You'll get a balance out on that.
Yeah.
I
am a known Euro skeptic and hater. Yeah.
I think that one thing that was interesting was talking about the power advantage France has. I didn't really realize until I was reading up on this today that not only is France majority nuclear powered, which I did know, but it consistently produces more electricity than it consumes and exports that. So they are going to guarantee by the end of 2026 that they will reach a megawatt I need to look up my notes on this, but they are going to make sure that they have a lot of power, a lot of excess power available for data centers specifically. It would commit to 1 gigawatt of nuclear power to be used for training data models, with the first 250 megawatts going online by the end of 2026. So that is an advantage that I think could lure some people into creating data centers there anyway.
It's weird because the EU is often talked about as a region, as a common market, but also in a lot of minds as a singular entity. And you still have to do with a lot of national road bumps, least of which is language. But you also have different laws, different customs, and it's not the same.
Customs as in things people do, not customs.
Yeah. Not like custom duties, but right. Like, cultural things. And I think there is still a lot of work to be done to kind of harmonize that will allow it to have a sort of pan-European advantage when it comes to developing these technologies. Because right now, I mean, even in the U.S., if you dealt with states, they're still part of the same country. But if you deal with the EU, you either deal with the German, you deal with the French, you deal with the Spanish, Norwegian, Swedish or Dutch or whomever. They will have their own peculiarities in their legal framework and what you can do and what people will allow. And I think until that happens, I mean, you can spend as much as you want, but it's going to be very fractured in that approach because everyone needs to sign on board, and the EU is still not a national entity in the way we think of
No, that's a good point. It's harder to move stuff like that. On the other hand, I think it's important to note again that this summit, the ancestor of this summit 2 years ago was entirely about safety. And I think the EU is realizing it may have overcorrected towards safety and squished innovation. And they're realizing that maybe a lot of the safety concerns aren't playing out as extremely as they thought. And they can loosen up on that again a little bit, which would help. Even if you take into account the complexity of the market. I mean, there's some pretty easy things they could do that would encourage companies like Apple and OpenAI to launch their features in the EU at the same time as they launch everywhere else. You will notice that features don't launch, and maybe you could make an argument that it's sour grapes or something, but usually it's because there's just a lot more compliance that you have to go through to meet EU safety rules.
Yeah, and we're not at a place where I think that the technology needs to be slowed for harm. I mean, I do think that the vibe difference is something that was very, very interesting that you pointed out, Tom, that this is not about safety, and let's build a regulatory structure around that, and we need rules to mitigate the idea that this is going to turn into Skynet any second now, which, by the way, have been issues that we have heard in apocalyptic terms since ChatGPT 2, right? Like we have heard that this is the thing that is going to totally change everything. And while I do believe in the tremendous power of AGI, if not ASI, to reshape the world, and there are very, very important questions that we do need to wrestle with, I think being realistic about them is really important. And then beyond that, you have the economic side of it, for which I think that the EU has put all of their citizenry in a disadvantageous position.
I will say the one benefit for coming in third or fourth or whatever place is coming up from behind is they can look at the current field and see where the mistakes were made and bypass those as they climb or as they try to climb.
That's what Apple does. Yeah, you're saying
I mean,
EU's being the Apple of AI regulation.
I mean, that would assume that they're building anything. They're not building anything. They're just restricting things.
Mistral would disagree. Helsing would disagree. They're building stuff.
Sure. Yes, they are building stuff for their markets, and that's fine. I just don't think that they're going to be the state of the art.
I think when they start redoing their financial regulations around investments, as well as maybe adjusting a lot of national immigration laws, I think that would be a sign that they are serious about putting their foot on the accelerator and making things speed up. We'll
see what von der Leyen announces. And I wasn't joking. I will talk to Patrick Beja, who lives in France and covers technology, about this and put that in the briefing on Wednesday. But as far as the vibes go, it's worth giving a listen. It's not very long to Stanford scientist Fei Li's announcement. She did the keynote, and it was very much saying, yes, we need to be safe. Let's base it on science, not science fiction, in her words. That's what she said. And she was like, we need to have open innovation. We need to have open source. We can't let a few companies, we can't let regulatory capture, she didn't use those words, but that's kind of what she was saying, lead to a few companies controlling everything. But there's a lot of good that can be done here. I thought it was a really well-articulated keynote. That again, her name is Fei Li, Stanford scientist and founder of World Labs, if you've ever played around with that. Well, folks, what would you like us to talk about on the show? We're going to talk about some things that you posted in our subreddit in this show. So get on over there and make a posting for a future show. Subreddit is reddit.com/r/Daily Tech News Show.
Well, Justin, not sure if you heard, but the Super Bowl was just yesterday, Sunday. It was a big show. I don't know if you know who won, so I won't spoil it for you.
Eagles fly.
But I actually tweeted that as well, and I was just like, I know I'm going to
Shout out to
get a lot of hate for
Odocta,
this.
who has become a fixture on Philadelphia Sports Talk Radio, but a good old friend. Shout out to Owen JJ Stone.
Indeed, yes. Fly birds. A lot of folks watched the show, but some were watching maybe for more reasons than just a good old team spirit situation.
CRYPTO, crypto. That's what they bet on, to the tune of $1.1 billion in volume on Polymarket, the cryptocurrency-based prediction market. Coinbase reported today that Polymarket has become the go-to destination for on-chain bets, attracting the attention of regulators like the U.S. Commodity Futures Trading Commission that wants to access the platform's consumer data. According to crypto attorney Aaron Brogan, prediction markets are gambling sites. They are not gambling sites. That is an inaccurate definition because prediction markets make the money off transaction fees, not from the users.
Okay. So if I participate,
yes,
the platform is getting a little. It's like a carry fee, right?
It's not the traditional. The house. Money. You're betting against the house. The house takes a certain vig on the way in, and then pays out X amount of money.
I mean, not unlike if I buy a pair of jeans on Poshmark. And the person who sells them to me sends me the jeans, and then Poshmark gets a couple bucks off of whatever that sale it is.
Essentially, you are taking money from the other people that are in the market, right? So there is a market that has X amount of resolutions. Whenever you buy into it, you just don't bet on it. The odds, quote unquote, that you would have on it would be $1. So you could buy... If it's a rare thing and it right now has 25% of a chance, you could buy $1 for a quarter, if that makes sense. But that other side of it comes from the other people that are saying, no, I'm going to spend 75 cents for a dollar because I believe that this is more likely to happen. And so Polymarket is saying all we're doing is taking the carriage fees in and out. This is not a traditional gambling house. However, the adrenaline's real, and so is the money, especially when people are pushing it in and out of crypto from oftentimes American dollars, despite the fact that you're not legally able to do it here in America. I imagine there are quite a few VPN travelers who are here on American soil.
Because you can still lose money, right? It's not like you make money on every single thing. So yeah, that's
no. I mean,
if that were the case, we'd all be doing it.
Functionally, it's the same idea from the investors' perspective, right? You are saying, I believe that the Kansas City Chiefs will win, like I did last night, not on Polymarket, but on through other channels. The Kansas City Chiefs did not win, and so I lost that money. That would be the same thing as if I did that on Polymarket or Kalshi or any of the other sites that have these prediction markets. The mechanism is different and the crypto is different. Those are the two big things that are changed. But it's one of these things that I kind of feel is a part of our modern era, that regulation, especially for vices, are becoming harder and harder and harder. And the ones that are split amongst the states here in America are the most comical to try and see whether or not they are in any way actually real. Like, you can play crypto casinos right now. You know, you can do crypto sports gambling, or something that is nearly identical to crypto sports gambling right now. And yet, as I sit here in Texas, I cannot legally go to a betting website and place a bet on my phone. This is an interesting place.
The law says you can't gamble money, but because you're gambling crypto, they're like, that's not what the law says. I'm buying crypto. That's not illegal. I'm betting crypto. That's not illegal. Is that how that works?
Well, yeah, I'm VPNing to France. And
so you do have to VPN to use these sites.
For Polymarket, yes.
Okay.
For Kalshi, no. You can do that in America because Kalshi went above and beyond to try and get regulatory clearance for it. Which, even then, it's like what are those lines now? Like, but
the regulatory clearance was about the crypto, not the gambling. Is that the idea?
Yes, Polymarket does not have the ability to do those kinds of transactions in America. Kalshi does have the ability to do those kinds of transactions. Now, whether or not that's going to change, who knows? But also, we're living in a world where VPN and crypto is not the barrier to entry that it used to be. More and more people understand it. I think we're probably heading to more and more of a majority perspective on people who want to do that will be able to do it. The question is, will the regulatory state meet the market and say, all right, whatever, gamble on sports, who cares? You're going to be able to do it online anyway. You might as well benefit statewide stakeholders, or are states like Texas going to be steadfast in refusing to do it, which has other downstream effects, like trading Luka Doncic to the Lakers for somebody who gets injured in his first game.
So, Tom, to go back to your question of like, well, if you're just trading crypto, it's not necessarily money in your pocket, right? Because this is all just something that's on various platforms and ledgers, right? But then that's my question is, okay, if I were to, and I've never used Polymarket, but I know increasingly more people, I hear it brought up a lot. And people bet on Polymarket about all sorts of stuff. It's not just, a sporting event, a boxing match, a horse race, the traditional stuff that you would think, oh, okay, this is what people are betting on. It's like, is so-and-so going to say these three words in succession at the VP debate. I mean, it would like really in 2024, I was like, really? Like, that's such a specific bet. But people were doing that, because that's sort of fun. But I guess my question is, okay, well, so crypto can be sort of like, yeah, you got a certain amount of money on paper, but is it really your money? But you have to cash out at some point, and doesn't that have to be regulated? What if you make money? then you cash out the money, then you've made money on that bet.
It's complicated because there's state laws and there's federal laws, but there's no federal law against the gambling side of the crypto because you're gambling the crypto. But there could be laws about exchanging crypto for cash and how you do that. But at that point, that's really just a tax situation, right?
It's like a capital gains situation.
Yeah, right.
Tom, I feel like this is the thing that we get into all the time whenever we get into like safe harbor conversations, that we don't have good laws for the internet of the 2000s, let alone the internet of the 2020s.
Sure.
Like we are applying a lot of ramshackle precedent together to try to understand where we should legally be looking at things in our modern world. And it was woefully inadequate when you were doing Buzz Out Loud. It is laughably ridiculous as we are doing a Daily Tech News show.
Well, and that's what makes it so hard to explain, because I know there are people in the audience going like, listen, I just want to know if that's legal or not. Like if I have to VPN, I assume that means it's not legal. And so I don't want to do it because I just don't want to break the law and I don't want to risk getting caught. And so I think that's where Sarah's question becomes pertinent, which is, okay, let's say it's not illegal for me to use this particular site because they've gotten approval to be crypto trader. But what about when I cash it out? Is that gambling then when I cash it out? And the answer is, we don't really know. I think that's where you're going, Justin, is like, maybe like we don't have the court cases about it to really say for sure.
Yeah.
And we don't have the laws for it either.
We are in a very, very strange place with all of this. And especially as we talk more and more about, gambling in America, something that is controversial. I've seen more pushback on gambling from like Gen Z than anybody in my life. Like ever since, our generation was largely at a point where if anybody cared about gambling, it was just something that, whatever. Why shouldn't you be able to do it if you're allowed to do it in Vegas? What makes Vegas and Atlantic City so amazing and so special that they get a privilege that the rest of America doesn't? And so we've seen it kind of creep across, but now it's become so easy. It's become so addictive. They have pushed, multi-leg in-game parlays that are nearly impossible to hit, that push the ability for you to make any money further and further, down to the point that some of the apps are, if you allow push notifications from them, are predatory to try to hit you at the right times. That there's a sour idea about gambling right now, and yet it spreads more and more, both legally and extra legally, let's say, nebulously, as this crypto stuff is.
Well, it all to me the root comes down to governments have not decided what cryptocurrency is. Is it a currency or is it a commodity? And they want to treat it differently depending on the case. And so you get these loopholes here where you're like, well, I guess I'm buying a commodity and then I'm playing with that commodity over here in a way that isn't against the law. And then I'm selling the commodity and making money off of it. So, it's like buying a bunch of in-game currency in a game and then playing the game and then having either more or less of that currency and cashing out. That is not illegal for games to do. But, people do it and they can make and lose money same way.
Well, speaking of games, Valve is clarifying their policy in advertising in games. Roger, what can you tell us about the latest?
So when this news broke a couple of days ago, a lot of misunderstanding occurred about what exactly was happening. Valve has essentially updated its webpage to more clearly indicate that any dedicated advertising on Steam page, which clearly helps ensure that developers don't integrate freemium style type ads into games sold on Steam. Quote, developers should not utilize paid advertising as a business model in their game, such as requiring players to watch or otherwise engage with advertising in order to play, or gating gameplay behind advertising. So things that, for example, hey, you want to play another round of whatever game that you want to play, you just gotta sit through this ad or watch this slideshow of things that you could potentially purchase to help you update your character. Now, I will say that a limited form of advertising is still allowed in the game, in so much that a company, say like a soda company, could buy advertising spot in the latest first-person shooter. So when you run through a hall, you see their advertisements.
Product placements.
Product placement, or cross-promotional, like a movie's coming out, and you have like a little trailer of the movie running in the background of the game. Doesn't affect the gameplay, but it's sort of a nice verisimilitude building a bit of the game world. That's still allowed, but things where it's like, hey, you need to get to the next level, you got to drop another $50 on this whatever, which is something that's rampant, especially on mobile gaming.
Wait, that's paying, not advertising.
Yeah, paying. No, not paying. But to get to the next level, you would keep doing additional transactions in order to get past an advertisement. Right?
Okay. So you're forced to watch the advertisement.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
either sit through it or you have to pay for it, as opposed to you can buy a new level and then that's allowed. So like if you want to get like 20 new levels, you spend $30 with us, you'll get them. As opposed to you want access to the next 30 levels, you got to sit through this ad. Or if you want to skip the ads, you pay us or whatever. So it's really just an updating their website to reflect those policies.
So what you're saying is this was already against their rules. They just changed the language to make it clear that, like, yeah, when you do that, it's still
Super
against
clear.
the rules.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. And, it's weird because there was a point in gaming, and Scott Johnson would have testified to this, where everyone thought freemium models was kind of how you would go through the future because so much of the game budgets were exploding, and to recoup some of that loss, you could either charge like $70, which is what they do now anyway, $70 for a game, and then you nickel and dime them on the nice to haves, and then additional stuff as it went on. Blizzard had a lot of blowback when they did this with Diablo 4 and then Diablo 3 and then Diablo 4, where they would have this little store where you could purchase various items for your character to advance to the next level.
but those aren't advertising.
Oh, those aren't advertising, but that is one of those bits.
And that's not against the rules.
That's not against the rules.
Okay.
But what I'm trying to get to is what they found out is gamers are heavily against anything that looks like it's monetizing through sort of a hassle level, like where you basically, they make it so unbearable that unless you paid, you can't get past it, or you have to sit through an ad to get past it. This is one of those things where I think, honestly, I wish I could say it was on the decline, but man, a lot of games, especially
I want them to
games.
make this policy apply to mobile, even though I know Steam has nothing to do with the mobile games that I get from the Play Store or the App Store, because what they're saying they don't allow in Steam is rampant in mobile games, right? Every game I play that isn't part of Apple Arcade has got some ad that I have to sit through before I do the next game. It's like games like Solitaire or something like that. Or you can pay to get rid of the ads, right? That's that freemium model you're talking about. And I'm glad that Valve is saying, you know what, if you want to play in Steam, you don't have to play in Steam. You can distribute your game any way you want. But if you want to play here, we're not going to let you annoy game players that way.
It's interesting you say that because Netflix recently featured a new game on their mobile game side of things. And it is a popular kind of not Wordle, but you basically have to, you get 5 or 4 letters and you have to build the words on the crossword puzzle. Now that game traditionally, I used to play it on my phone, was filled with a bunch of ads. Like you would finish one level and it'd throw you like 6. The Netflix doesn't have any of that.
Yeah,
like they
because
stripped
they're
it all
making
away
money
and
off
it's
your
just
Netflix subscription, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it'd be interesting to see if there would be a sort of a game subscription model where you get all these whatever mobile games, like you get an entire library for a month or whatever for like $10.
You mean like Apple Arcade and
like
Netflix?
Apple Arcade, yeah.
And Google's got a version of it as well. Yeah.
But some of those still don't have that annoying, but some of them still feature a little bit of it, which I find.
Apple Arcade does?
No, Google. The Google.
Okay.
I haven't. Yeah, I Android, and you can see where they've clipped it up, but it seems like such a. they must do it because obviously they must be making money off it because they're obviously still doing it. But at the same time, I think people would just, oh, but I love that game so much, right? Because there are games that are so addictive. Talk about gambling and addiction. There is certain games that you need to get through because it literally hits all the dopamine centers of the human brain because you finish a task, you reach a level, and you want to get to the next one. And then to get the next one, you sit through like an ad.
What is it about ads that we hate them in the moment and we hate them in the concept, but we sort of forget how annoying they are when we go back to something?
Free.
Is it the price?
That's it.
Yeah.
Like that's all we want to think of is, am I spending money on this? And then we get mad during the ads, and then we forget about it as soon as we get back to the thing that we want, and then we feel good about ourselves that we didn't spend money on it. It's the same thing with Tubi. It's the same thing with all those
Amazon Prime Video
services, Amazon Prime Video, Netflix now. I mean, everybody's got an ad-supported tier. The same exact thing with gameplay. You want to be able to try it for free. And you don't want to ever feel like, especially in a subscription clogged world that we live in, that you are going to forget that you are spending money on X, Y, or Z. You'd rather just see the Chumba Casino ad for the 90th time.
You know, it's weird because Netflix is sort of like not the grab bag, but it's like getting that the entree along with the sides and the drink. Like at the supermarket, because you're getting the movie.
You mean the combo meal?
Yeah, the combo meal. Duh.
At
the combo meal. It's just like, well, yeah, the supermarket.
Are you thinking of Costco?
No, I'm thinking of fast food, where you get instead of getting the sandwich, you get the whole combo because you get everything. Yeah. And they kind of hit that because even when. You can download and watch things on your phone, but sometimes you just want to play a little game and lo and behold, there's Netflix to save the day, and you can just download, play, and it doesn't nag you at all, and it's great.
No, I'm with you, but I do think it's weird because we were watching this show on Amazon Prime this weekend called Newtopia, and when I think of talking about that show, I am not going to talk about the ads. I'm going to talk about the show as if I never saw the ads. But I know when we were watching it and the ads came on, Eileen and I were both like, should we pay the $3 to get rid of this? It's so annoying. But you just kind of forget about it.
I will air this one gripe. There are a lot of 80s, 90s TV shows that they rebroadcast on things like Roku and not Tubi, what's the Pluto TV. And sometimes it's like it's a TV show meant for commercial television. They're already ad spots, but they don't put the ads there. They put them in other locations. So you have a weird break that wears the ad
where it fades to black and then fades up, and you're like, oh.
But then they put the ad right in the middle of dialogue.
Somebody's very important speech.
Yeah, just put it. They're already spots.
Well, because it's all just automated stuff.
Yeah, it's not automated well.
Yeah,
but it's automated.
You're not going. I mean, there are definitely people whose jobs it is to. I mean, even on for Acast, for example, like if we insert ads, it's like you can just sort of say like, put it where you think it should go, or you can actually go in there as a human, kind of going back to the AI or human.
Nobody's sitting through episode 5, season 9 of American Gladiators and making sure that those ad points are exactly where they need to be, especially if their ad points are
sure
not
somebody out there would
at
like
the same
that job.
point. Yeah, but that's maybe they want 6 ad spots an hour, and that traditional program was made for 4 ad spots an hour. Then guess what? You're getting random ad spots.
When Eileen was working on the Rotten Tomatoes streaming channel, which was on Roku and a bunch of other places, it was painstaking for them to figure out for their own content that they were making how to make sure those ad markers lined up every time it showed. There was not an easy way to do it. They were motivated to do it because it was their own original stuff, and they didn't want to have ads just interrupt someone in the middle of a sentence. And so you can imagine when it's like an old TV show, companies are going to be like, I'm not going to prioritize the resources to go in and do all of that matching up. Just throw them on there. People. I
actually worked for Pluto TV on a contract.
Oh yeah, I
job.
forgot about that.
Yeah, some years ago, and that was. I mean, it wasn't really it wasn't my job specifically, but it was several people who worked there's jobs to be like, okay, here are the breaks. Here's the channel that you're working on, and here are the specific breaks. It was, even though it's live TV that's not programmed like live TV, that's what it is. It is live TV, and it was a painstaking process, is a good way to put it.
Because you would move something one place and it would affect everything else on the schedule. Like,
Oh yeah,
sometimes you wouldn't even realize.
You kind of couldn't do that. You'd be like, I mean, you better have a really good reason, because that person who just gave you all the time codes is going to be like, really? All right, let me do it over.
Go back and if they did it or if they knew. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's check out the mailbag.
Ruben wrote in, one of the many people, even though I asked if you're in a country that has a really good money transfer system and you do use apps like Venmo or PayPal or Cash App, write us. So far, all we've gotten is people talking about how much better their money transfer system is in their country versus the United States. Ruben was the same, talking about Mexican banks and SPEI, which can do same-day free transfers between banks within minutes. He said, if you don't have a bank account, which is not uncommon in Mexico, or are not tech-savvy, you can go to a convenience store or equivalent and do the deposit or transfer there. You only need the account of the destination person. It doesn't matter what bank. And for a small fee, which is less than $50, they make the transaction. They use the same bank infrastructure as everyone else to operate these transactions for folks. The U.S. is behind most countries, or at least the expensive and complex wire systems have opened the doors to other things like Venmo, which might or might not be bad. Zelle seems a good attempt, but if not every bank supports it, then the value diminishes. Thank you, Ruben, for sharing your experience.
Indeed. And thanks to everybody who wrote in about this and writes in about anything that strikes a chord, as it were. But anything we talk about on the show or something that you would like us to feature on an upcoming show, send it our way. feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com.
Any chord. Could even be major.
Yeah. Major. Right. Yeah. Or
minor.
In the Canadian transfer.
Sure. Yeah. Justin Robert Young, whether you're in Canada or the U.S., we want you on the show.
I stand on guard for thee either way.
We want you to use whatever transfer service you prefer. Just keep coming on back and let folks know where they can keep up with you between the times you're with us.
If you like AI talk, then you're going to love the podcast that I do with Andrew Main, the first prompt engineer for OpenAI. We talk about everything that is happening in this fast and burgeoning world. Oftentimes it goes too fast for our little weekly show, but we do our best. The Attention Mechanism with Andrew Main, available now everywhere where you get podcasts.
Folks have been submitting titles during the show. If you're watching or listening live, we stream on LinkedIn, Twitch, and YouTube every day at 4 p.m. Eastern. And you can go to showbot.tv, dtns.showbot.tv specifically, and see what titles folks are submitting. You can submit them yourself. You can vote on them. Howard Yermish leading the way today with critical thinking is still critical. Mm-hmm. And then Zoe brings bacon manifesting for you, Justin. Mm-hmm. Justin to win Tour de France remotely.
Yep.
I think she made a bet on Polymarket about it.
My quads are already hurting.
Oh, dear.
We also have Renaissance in France, also from Howard.
Renaissance.
Renaissance.
I like that.
AI Drains Brains from Nth Mike. Little AI play. I saw what you did there. CPOT's 50 with no time for critical thinking. It's like No Country for Old Men. Polly want to bet.
I like that one from G. James B. Yeah, that's cute.
So ATW has Steam limits ransoms for attention. That's one way of looking at it. Good job, Saray. What did we go with?
Well, we went with Nth Mike's AI Drains Brains. Now, why not drain your brain? Seems to be draining some brains. Depends on how you use the tool you're given.
In the brain now. Thank you.
Insane in the brain. Before we leave, I know we were talking about this. Some of you on Discord heard before we actually started the show. But let's just real quick go around the horn. How did we think about the Super Bowl halftime show, Justin?
As a Kendrick Lamar fan, I was absolutely delighted. If I were not up on his musical catalog over the last year, I'd be very, very confused why he didn't do the song that he did with Taylor Swift. because that would have been something that more.
Well,
of an
and
average
that
audience
was
would have liked.
And she
that
was right
one,
there.
one of the high floating rumors, right? Was like, oh, might be a Taylor Swift appearance, but like
Maroon
no, she was
5,
hanging out in
Imagine
her booth.
Dragons. Like he's done a lot of features on
Yeah.
very, very hit popular songs. And yet it was about all the stuff that happened the last year. Now, I loved the last year of Kendrick's output, but I can understand why some people were like, what?
Like I don't really know these songs.
Yeah.
I also enjoyed the show. I thought it was great. I'm also a Kendrick fan. Like Justin, you and I are probably neck and neck on this one. I don't know. I might be edging you out a little bit. However, one of the things I chuckled most about this morning was an article from the New York Times saying Kendrick's bell bottoms stole the Super Bowl.
Were they bell bottoms though?
They
That's
were
the debate,
not.
right?
So that was my thing. I was
Are
like,
they
they
even
weren't really
bell-bottoms?
bell bottoms. They were just
Yeah.
flare, kind of flare
I mean,
bottoms.
you
but
wanna know what's
but I
funny?
did during the show. I was like, I like those pants. I like them.
I was watching the Super Bowl with our friend Darren Kitchen, and that's all he could talk about. He's like, those bell bottoms? Are those bell bottoms? I think they're bell bottoms. I think they're bell bottoms.
Okay, all right. Well, so New York Times.
So they
got-
did. They
got
did.
in the-
Although, let me just point out that what a small broken human I am, that I got so mad about the New York Times' episode of The Daily about not like us being played at the Super Bowl that I just started just hate tweeting. Not tweeting. I just made a group chat with Tom and Will Saddleberg of Dog and Pony Show Audio and just started ripping it because I am an irrational person who doesn't have guardrails for my own emotions.
Well,
I am not as big of a Kendrick Lamar fan as the two of you, but I very much enjoyed it. I very much enjoy his style. I was hitting the Shazam button a little bit, to your point, Justin, of like, wait, what's this one? But I really like the way he constructed it with Samuel Jackson being the voice of America, criticizing him because that's what everybody does, right? When they watch a Super Bowl halftime show. I thought that was clever. Eileen and I were both like, was that Serena? Hold on.
Oh, yeah.
And
Wow.
turned
No,
out,
that was
yes,
Serena
in fact,
sea-walking.
that was definitely Serena.
Better not speak on Serena.
that's right.
I also thought it was clever to be like, oh, I don't know if I should play it. They might sue, and then play a little bit of it.
We talked
and
about
come
this
back,
last week, where you were like, "Well, they can bleep things," and I'm like, "But it's the subject matter." I mean, you
Well,
can.
he just
did
dropped
not-
the one line
Yeah,
that
he
would
did,
be
he
the
did
most
not say
contentious.
one word. He didn't say one word. It was
Yep.
certified lover boys, certified.
Certified. Look at the camera.
Yeah,
You know what I'm gonna.
yeah, with a big smile. I will say, because I'm that person, I looked up the jeans. They're from Celine. They are $13,000 and they're sold out.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah.
that's
$13,000
correct.
a pair.
Well, it's Celine, so it's like this is
No,
like
per leg.
What?
no, it's 26 if you want both of them. No,
Oh
it's
my
they were
Lord.
13. I mean,
13,000.
Celine is like it's a high fashion brand, right? So these are these are not jeans that we're gonna buy. But
If he didn't get those
you're
for
gonna get a
free,
lot of
he
people
should
wearing
have.
jeans that look like that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
guarantee you.
I swear I saw
If anybody
some of
had
those.
their boot cuts and flares in the back of their closet like me over the
Bring 'em
last
out.
decade plus, because I was like, you know what, skinny jeans are going to go out of style and these jeans are going to come back, and I'm not throwing them out. Now, we are invigorated fashionistas that we all are.
Yeah. There we go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, all the ladies listening, if you get
I
those,
wear a puffy hat and a sweatshirt for the 19th time in a row on the show.
if any of the ladies listening, if you get those jeans, if you spent that much money on them, make sure you hide your little sister from them because you don't want her to steal them.
Because she's gonna steal those jeans.
Yeah.
She's gonna steal those jeans. She's gonna drop chocolate sauce on them, and then you're gonna be in a world of hurt.
Wop, 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 wop. That's the chocolate sauce that would be
Yeah,
dropped
that's
on
right.
it.
Shall we, before we get out of here, touch real quick on that breaking news that Sarah mentioned at the top of the show that Elon Musk has made a bid to buy OpenAI. There is more to be
Generational hater. Generational hater.
There's more to be said about this, but basically the effect of this, I mean, I don't know that Elon Musk wouldn't want to get OpenAI. He couldn't convince the consortium of investors if he wasn't halfway serious about it. But he's certainly one of his motivations was, I want to drive up the valuation of OpenAI, because what Sam Altman wants to do is convert it into for-profit, which means buying people out and giving them a stake in the new for-profit. And that buying people out and giving them a stake would be based on valuations. And those valuations just went up to minimum $97.4 billion.
And higher. They've promised that they will continue to drive the price up and up and up. It does complicate OpenAI's plans. That being said, right now OpenAI is the lead dog in terms of AI research, and they have the leading markers in terms of customer acquisition for it. They're, from what I have heard, their API business does a ton, but their consumer business is really what sets them apart. And that's what makes them an exceptional company. The product obviously is best in class, and Elon hates Sam Altman. Like that's where we are.
There's a whole, exchange going on X right now.
I feel like Musk might be saying that he's a certified profit file.
He actually said, and I quote, swindler.
He did.
So,
he used that exact word.
Yeah. We'll have to figure out what that rhymes with and make our own song.
More to come.
Yeah.
More to come
Oh no, that's
squabble.
He is right now. Yeah. 5 minutes ago, Scam Altman is the
very clever.
The X from
because it rhymes with Sam. Get it?
Yeah, look, these two don't
why?
like each other. It is something that goes back. I do think that this is sour grapes from Elon, because he left OpenAI believing that he had the solution and the talent and the money to lead on AI with Tesla. He didn't. OpenAI did. And that's a bummer. That he can't be the leader in electric cars and space and own
and also
and own the digital town square and be reforming government with a zero-based balance approach. But, look, to quote Kendrick Lamar, he might be the man in the garden, and he deserves to have it all. That is Elon's perspective.
Big thanks to everybody who supports us in all the various ways you can. Stid Hat supporting us on Twitch for the 45th month. We got bits from Zoe Brings Bacon. Good to see Prince of Brow back for the 49th month. Woo. Said, have a great day, everyone. Chaz Basden for the 54th month. No YouTube super chats, but always big thanks to C-Spawn and Leminar Rainbow for keeping those going. And Michael and Eduardo gave us a raise on Patreon. Thank you, Michael and Eduardo. That's huge when we get a vote of confidence that I'm already back in what you're doing, but I think it's worth even more. So thank you for that.
Indeed. Thanks, everybody, for supporting us. By the way, if you're listening to Apple Vision Show or even watching it when we stream live, normally on Tuesdays right after DTNS Live right here, we'd love to have more of you. If that sounds like something that's up your alley, each week Eileen Rivera and I talk about everything Apple. Apple news, whether Apple's vision is matching what we're looking for, what we hope to have in the future, what is actually happening, new announcement, product drops, and software drops as well. Do join us. It's a really fun show. Get subscribed at applevisionshow.com. You can also watch us live here on DTNS Live, Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern. That's 2100 UTC, and you can find out more at dailytechnewsshow.com/live. We're back tomorrow with Shannon Morse joining us. Hope to see you there.
The DTNS family of podcasts, helping each other understand.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.